journey for Kingsley School. It's a journey that we've been on for many, many years, but this is the next stage of that journey. And we're really excited to be able to share with all of you today, pupils, parents, visitors, friends from the local community, very excited to share with you our vision for what is coming in the next few years. We're going to have a series of talks and presentations this afternoon. In a moment, we're going to begin with our headline guest speaker, Sir Tim Schmitt. I won't say a huge amount because he will introduce himself. And I suspect many of you know who he is. He is the gentleman behind the Eden Project. Quick show of hands, those of us who've been to the Eden Project. Fantastic. Can't live in the southwest and not. That's brilliant. We'll hear from Tim in a moment. After Tim, we're going to hear from Christopher Upton. This is Christopher sitting at the front here. He will be talking to us a little bit more about our plans here at Kingsley to develop a no-dig farming practice. I'll just leave that there, and Christopher will explain a little bit more about that. And then when Christopher has spoken, I'm afraid you've got me, and I will just be explaining why is a school doing this? How does that work? How does that fit with us as a school? We've got parents here who'll be thinking, yes, how does it fit? I want my child to get GCSE results, and I want my child to get A-levels and BTECs. How does this fit, Mr. Last? Is this what a school should be doing? Important question, and I hope I'll be able to address that. And in part of my little bit, we will also be meeting James Barnett. James is a local architect who has a reputation for building environmentally sensitive buildings. And he has some very exciting initial draft plans of our new proposed Earth Centre, which we will be sharing with you. So that's the plan for the afternoon. Relax, enjoy it, and please welcome, as our guest note speaker, Sir Tim Schmitt.
Hello everybody, I'm not going to be speaking very much about sustainability, nor about the environment, nor about green stuff, because that's what you're expecting. And the way to bore the pants off anybody is to tell them exactly what they expect. So I'm going to tell you about pigs, because pigs are good. I'm going to tell you my life story in 3 minutes. Okay, I went to Durham University to study archaeology and anthropology, and when I was at university I formed a rock band, and when I left university to become an archaeologist, I realised that I was going to earn no money at all as an archaeologist, but I might earn a lot of money being in a rock band. So I went to London and discovered when I was in London that there were 30,000 musicians better than me in London on any night of the week. So I ended up unemployed and on the dole, but one day playing football on Clapham Common, which is a big common in London, I kicked a man very hard with the studs right up his shins, and he fell to the ground screaming, and a man said to me, "Do you know who you've just kicked?" I said, "I've got no idea." He said, "This is the most famous sound engineer in the world from Abbey Road Studios. He recorded the Beatles." And I said, "Hello." And I called him up, and we would become firm friends, so I started to record at Abbey Road Studios, and we made records. Then one day, this is days you cannot imagine these days, ladies and gentlemen, these are the days before mobile phones. Can you imagine that time? So I was appearing, I went to Abbey Road Studios to do a recording session, and the singer that I had booked was ill. I phoned every other singer that I knew. They were all ill. I then phoned my sister-in-law, who had a friend who knew somebody who was an opera singer. My hopes were this big. The girl came in, she sang, she was an angel, and you're not going to believe this. 4 weeks later, the record that we recorded at Abbey Road Studios was #1 in Holland. And then in Belgium, and then in France, and then in Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. We were big. Now I want you to come forward with me 2 years. I'm swank. I am staying in the best hotel room in Paris. The furniture in my hotel room is worth more than I will earn in my life. The telephone goes, I go downstairs, my limousine is waiting. I get into the limousine and the chauffeur says, "Would sir like to hear a little music?" I said, "Sure." He puts on the radio. It's my record. And you know what? The next record that comes on is going to knock my record off number 1. Shame I'd written that as well. I am so swank, and we're going towards the Tour d'Argent nightclub, the swankiest nightclub in Paris, where I'm going to get platinum discs. You'll never guess what happens over the next 5 minutes. I feel weird, and I'm sitting in the back of this limousine, and I start to cry. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I never went to the Tour d'Argent. I went back to my hotel room, and I decided I was going to give up the music business. Why would that be? And why would I be standing in front of a lot of young people telling you a story? You're thinking, what on earth is this idiot old man telling me? I'm telling you that the saddest thing in the world is to set yourself up to want to be something that isn't who you are. There is nothing sadder than feeling you've achieved success. Champagne in the veins is what you expected, the neon lights, and all you get is a mouth like a parrot's cage and ashes going through your fingers. So I decided I would change my life. I was going to change my life radically. I was going to lead my life as nobody else that I knew leads their life. I was going to lead my life by falling in love with chaos. You see, when you come to school, you learn things. I hope. You learn all sorts of stuff. But the reason why this is so cool, the reason I'm here talking to you, is this is one of the most intelligent school projects I've ever come across, because it's actually going to teach you stuff that is about the planet we live on and why it's important to know stuff, not because of knowledge itself, but it is only through understanding your place in the natural world that you suddenly feel alive to who you are. Or else you're just a fake, the great imposter. And believe me, everybody you meet, every successful person I have ever met, after they've drunk a glass of wine and they're telling the truth about what they feel, they will tell you they feel like the great imposter. To be happy, you need to be absolutely doing what you want to do. And I hope that that's what you'll be inspired to do here. For me, I decided that I was bored, having been at university with people that I thought were going to be really intelligent and clever, to discover that all everybody wanted to do was to smoke dope, to get drunk, to get to know girls, to read enough to get your degree. And then I realised most British people are like that. Most British people are actually fundamentally stupid. They are fundamentally pig ignorant. Shall I tell you why? Do you know the effort of actually thinking, as opposed to putting on the clothes or what everybody else thinks, actually thinking for yourself? I love going to environmental conferences, and I go like this, and I say, are you anti-nuclear? And of course they think he's an environmentalist. He must be anti-nuclear. And then I'm cruel. Oh, I enjoy this cruelty. I look them in the eye and say, tell me why you're anti-nuclear. And then they go like goldfish, because they don't know anything about nuclear. It's because their friends were against nuclear, and their friends' friends, and the people who are considered to be really cool are anti-nuclear. It's the same with genetic modification. It's the same with every subject. Unless you've thought about it, you are just a sheep. But how can you stop being a sheep? How can you stop being influenced by the people around you? You know what I did? I have created the most perfect system. And if you learn only one thing today from me, you'll learn a lot from Christopher, he's the learning side of this team. If you learn only one thing from me, it is if you can ride the great horse of chaos, you will be on a ride that will take you places you never dreamt. And you know what you've got to do? You must accept the third invitation you receive, without any barrier. It doesn't mean you can't accept the first. You see, by saying that you will accept the third, it means that you have to go to places you didn't want to. You see, when you meet oldsters like me, generally, or your parents, or my parents, they will generally say, oh, you must go to university, you must go and do this, and you'll meet the people you need to meet. That's what they'll say. You'll meet the people you need to meet. But magic is never made by meeting the people you need to meet. Magic is made by meeting the people you didn't know you needed to meet. Magic is made by Meeting people you didn't know had something to say that could change the way you see life. It happens every time. I accepted a conversation not far distant from here in Taunton. I was going to speak in a Nissen hut, and my PA said there will be 50 people and a dog. It's not worth it. I said, I've got to go. It's the third invitation. I went. There were indeed 50 people and a dog. The dog loved my speech. And anyway, 3 months later, I am in Plymouth at a meeting of all of these posh people from Europe who are going to decide the money that the Eden Project will get. We weren't going to get it. Our faces did not fit. And suddenly this old man gets up. He says, my name is Humphrey Temperley, and I'm the chairman of Somerset County Council, and I saw this man speak in a Nissen hut near Taunton. He obviously loves the West Country, not just the narrow confines of Cornwall, and I have spoken to my colleagues on Taunton County Council, and we have agreed that we are going to cancel one of our projects so that this project may go ahead if all of you will cancel one each as well. That decision to go and speak to 50 people and a dog, you know how much it was worth? £12.7 million. And it happens time after time after time. I have spoken at the West of England Ballroom Championships. I have judged orchid clubs. I've judged dog shows. I've opened old people's homes. But every time you meet the people you weren't meant to meet, and the magic builds, and the stories get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's the same as the reason I teach my staff. They think I'm mad. I have 9 rules of managing my staff. Number 1, you must say good morning to 20 people. Number 2, you must read 2 books every year that everybody that knows you would say were completely outside of your interests, and review them for your colleagues. Rules 3, 4, and 5. Go and see a movie, go and see a show, go and see a play. Same rules. How else are you going to see something that isn't what your mates have already done? How about allowing your brains to really expand by seeing the things that you wouldn't normally do? Hearing the musics you wouldn't necessarily listen to, reading the books you'd actually walk away from. The effort is magnificent. Rule number 6, you must make a speech once a year about why you love working for me. If you can't do it, you've got to go. Rule number 7, you've got to do, I don't have the comfort of religion. Rule number 7, you've got to do something unspeakably nice to someone who will never know you did it. It's great fun. Enjoy the pleasure of it. Rule number 8, you must cook for the 40 people that make it worth coming to work. We've narrowed that down because some of our colleagues in cooking are not good friends. However, the principle of working by night is really interesting because during daylight hours we are work person. At night, something weird happens. It's a bit like Dracula, only different. At night, you bring whole person to the table. Everything you've ever done is now at the table and at the disposal of the team. And it's great. And the last rule is you've got to learn to play samba drums. Typical old hippie, you're probably thinking. Well, I'll tell you something, kids. When you start playing samba drums, they're really difficult. All the rhythms are across the beat. All across the beat. It's only when the last rhythm comes in that suddenly you get this amazingly hip swaying quality. Now, why is it that almost every person you've ever met between the age of 2 and 6 naturally likes to sing and to dance? And then after that, we get a bit more stiff and just a little bit more shy, and we don't sing. You know, you can feel it, can't you? If I pointed at any of you and said, sing now, your heartbeat's going up, isn't it? Just to get, please God, he's not going to actually do this. And point at me. No, I won't. So we get these drum guys in, they come in with the big drum, boom, 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 they come in, right? So 50 of my staff are going boom, 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 and they're British. And you know what it's like to be a British drummer? You go, oh, please don't look at me, this is terribly embarrassing, I can't bear this. There's a vein, I didn't even know there was a vein that goes along here, but they're so stiff like this. And then in come the cabasas, the timbales, and slowly, the weirdest thing happens. The guys who are doing the big drums at the finger was like this. They suddenly go, oh, funky, that's rather good, you know. And suddenly they all loosen up, and they start to scream, they start to holler. And you know what they realize at the end of it? The most important thing of all is what they realize is there is hardly a thrill in the world that gets close to creating something that's bigger than you are. You could not do samba on your own. That excitement, the hair that stands up on the back of your neck is bliss, it's fantastic, and it suddenly makes you feel nothing much is impossible. Nothing much. Why am I here? Why am I talking to you? One of my third invitations, I've got to tell you, is one of the weirdest ever. I was told by a friend in America, this really crazy guy is coming to London, your London, you know, House of Parliament, all that sort of stuff. He's really crazy, but he'd really like to meet you, and I'd like to invite you to meet. I said, oh no, you said I'd like to. That's going to be my third invitation. So I have to get on a train to London, and I meet this guy who's teetotal in a pub in London near the House of Parliament. He has got arms bigger than both of my legs together. His profession used to be a heroin-addicted cage fighter. And he had been found on the morgue slab in Chicago General Hospital, waking up from being apparently dead, believing that he had met the Archangel Michael in the afterlife, who'd said, I'm not ready for you. Go back. Go back. And when you go back, you have a mission. Your mission is to protect the giant trees of the west coast of America. So this guy called David Millarch went to find his children who he hadn't spoken to for 25 years. And he cleaned himself up and he went back to the old family farmstead, and they went out to the Sierra Nevada mountains of California, and they found this, they cut the saplings off, and they started to propagate these giant sequoias. Now I want you to come on a journey with me. David says, I want you to come climb the biggest tree in the world. Do you know how big this tree is? I'll give you some idea. The stem of this tree, the trunk, would be roughly from where I'm standing to that back wall. It's that big. And you know how you climb the biggest tree in the world? You have to learn how to use a bow and arrow, and you put a bit of nylon on the arrow, and you dung over the top branch. It's about 120 feet up, it comes down, you put it tight to a rope, you put it back over that rope, and you tie it onto a carabiner, and you go jing, 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 jing. And then like an old-fashioned railwayman, you go like this and get yourself up the tree. Then you keep on going. And then finally you get to 300 feet up. You look one way over the Sequoia National Park, which is green as far as you can see. The other way you see Death Valley. It is biblical. And your sweaty hands are holding the throat of this tree. You're high up this tree. By the way, by the time you get to the top of a giant sequoia, where at the bottom you can put your hand that deep into its bark, the cracks. At the top, it's like the downy feathers of an owl or an eagle. You know, those really soft feathers you get just here. And you're holding this tree at the top, and suddenly you think of something amazing. And I want you to be with me with this thought. You're holding this damn tree, and you suddenly say, it's 4,500 years old. This tree has outlived, to my knowledge as an archaeologist, 37 different civilizations. Think of it. 37 entire civilizations had a beginning, a middle, and then disappeared. And each one of those civilizations will have had people like you in it. Each one. So how did they screw that up then? Go back to what I said before, rule number 1, accept the third invitation. Read things you're not meant to read. Play things you're not meant to play. Do something unthinkable, which is to think, because you know the greatest disease in our culture is that you want to belong. You want to be part of the establishment. You can't help yourself. And then you become part of the establishment. You start to agree with what everybody else says, even though in your heart you don't. You don't want to just be different, so you stay there. So you have an entire civilization marching towards their doom. You know it's true. Just look at our current politicians. I am not voting for anybody. I didn't mean it as a... What I mean is the freedom to think and be what your heart says you should be the main driver. And if you cannot see that working with the grain of nature, that understanding the natural cycles of living things should be the start of everything, you're already lost. And then there are all those other values which people don't teach you about: being kind, being generous, being trustworthy, having what is called integrity. These are all really important things. They're not nice to have, they're absolutely crucial. It means you're not for sale. I can go to a room anywhere in the world today and I can ask the audience to make a list of the 2 people that the world knows about, or that their country knows about, that they most respect. You know what? 9.9 times out of 10, the names on that paper are people who've got one thing and only one thing in common, and it is that they are not for sale for any price. Their values, the integrity is total. Now, I didn't want to come talk to you about the world going to hell in a handcart, because actually it isn't. One of the problems is that when you live at a time which has never been so safe as it is now, it's so safe now. I know we hear about people getting murdered and things and whatever. Even my mother believed there were crack dealers on her house, on her drive, and she lived in a posh part of Camberley. You know, and of course, when you go to hospital, someone will leave something nasty inside you, and you'll get diseases. Everything's terrible. The world is terrible. Is it? It's better than it's ever been. Not necessarily environmentally, but I'm making a point that one of the reasons why we tell ourselves it's so terrible is the same way why every parent in this room up here has imagined the tragedy of the death of their child. It is how Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise ape, copes with dealing with the terrible and the unexpected. You have to use your imagination, and through that imagination you build inside you the tactics to be able to protect yourself against the horrible and hopefully never occurring thing that may happen. So actually, I don't think there has ever in the history of humankind been a time as exciting as right now. I am so jealous of you. You have no idea when you're an old bugger of 65, and I look at all of you smart people in the front, you are going to be doing, but in 1969, I doubt there's hardly anybody here who's, yeah, well, a few, around 1969. In 1969, there was a musical called Hair. For us chaps, we liked it because the ladies didn't always have as many clothes on as they should have. And it was very exciting, but there was this song, The Age of Aquarius, We Are All Stardust. Just imagine that the world of hippiedom and science have gone like this over the time I've been alive. Whereas we understand, and Chris is going to be talking about it later, but when you look at the fungal associations in the soil, when you look at the biological, the microbial relationships in our stomachs and all our bodies, and you start to look at these things, and you suddenly this dawning thought comes to you, oh my God, we're earthlings. We're the same thing, we're just like different forms. It's a really exciting time, and you're going to live through this time. I don't think a species could ever have had such an exciting moment as you're all going to have. And what a privilege to be at a school like this that actually studies that stuff, so that when you've actually finished it and everybody else is doing really crap things, you know, like studying, you know, sort of media with photography or something. I ought to say with a health warning, for all of you studying media with photography, really good subject. I didn't mean that. I'm exaggerating to make a point. So I'm going to end. How long have I talked for so far? Oh, marvellous. I want to tell you about someone really, really cool, and it's going to lead into Christopher, I hope. Either that or he's just going to assault me because I've actually said something he was going to say. I met a most extraordinary man. He's a guy called Owen Brennan, and he's very rich. He set up an animal feed company called Devonish in Ireland, and he bought himself a country estate in southern Ireland in a county called County Meath. And where he's bought it, for any of you who know anything about history at all, it is called Brunnia Boinia in Gaelic, the bend in the Boyne, if you're not of Irish extraction. And there are these three enormous tombs. One is called Newgrange, one is called Douth, and the other is called Nouth. Look them up. These are serious places of death. These are big megalithic tombs, and they're UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are three places that are in Northern Europe that are the tops. There's Carnac in Brittany, Stonehenge in England, and Newgrange in Ireland. He bought the estate that's got Douth on it. And he has, over the last 4 years, done something absolutely extraordinary. He's spent more money on archaeology on this estate than the whole of the country of Ireland, because he wanted to dig up the ground to find out what was underneath, and he found tomb after tomb after tomb, and then he found a dairy dating back 5,500 to 6,000 years. And he started to research all the pollen in the ground to find what people were eating at the time, and he found all these fish traps in the River Boyne, which was at one time the richest salmon fishing river in Ireland. It was full of freshwater crayfish, salmon, trout, grayling, whatever. It was a source of plenty to our ancestors. So he started looking at his soil. He did one thing. He dug a hole because he wanted to dig in an old lime tree because there had once been an avenue of lime trees. And as he dug out the soil, he saw there were no worms at all. You'll never guess what he did next. He went mad. He went absolutely mad, and he went everywhere collecting pig's piss. He went and collected pig's piss from everywhere, gallons and gallons of pig's piss, which he turned into a most amazing cocktail. He took off the ammonia and he injected it all over his land. Then he imported worms. And these worms went crazy. The worms they went roilingly mad. And now this estate has just got worms. Worms everywhere. Fantastic worms eating the soil and creating the most friable soil underneath. Why that's good, he'll tell you. I can't tell you. He's a scientist. He's a good wallow. Yeah. What I'm going to tell you has nothing to do with all of this. You think I'm about to tell you all sorts about soil. That's his job. But this estate is now really, really mwah. I forgot to mention, he hasn't restored the building, the stately home. He promised himself he'd do the land first. You will never guess what the first building is that he restored. It's in Ireland. Your life depends on it. What do the Irish like doing? And no, it's not a distillery. He restored a racetrack. Why would he restore a racetrack? You should be with me, kids. This is really important. Why would you restore a racetrack in Ireland? Of course you do it because you want your neighbours to come and watch the horse racing, don't you? That's the first thing. First year, 3,000 people came for the horse racing. This year, 7,000 people came for the horse racing. And do you know what the price was to get in? 5 minutes. The host demanded 5 minutes of a silence so pure you could hear a pin drop. And you know what he said? Year one, he gets up on a table and he looks at all his fellow farmers and he says, "My friends, how do you think our ancestors would feel?" At which point, theatrically, the side of the tent is ripped off to reveal the huge funeral pyre. Our ancestors would be disgusted with us. The thing that was most important to them was the harvest of the river, which married with the harvest of the land. And we have destroyed it. There's hardly anything there. Total silence. These people who had never listened to science in their lives, they knew the truth. There are only 4 important words. And you know what they are. We are a storytelling ape. We always have been. We've never changed our behaviors because of a fact. But the moment someone starts with these words, once upon a time, we're just captured. We're like a cat being stroked, and we listen. This story has resulted in 30 miles of the River Boyne Valley, of the farmers who live there changing their agricultural practices so they don't leach anything into the River Boyne. And guess what? The grayling are returning, the trout are returning, the salmon are returning, and they found freshwater shrimp. Cool, huh? What you need, the reason I'm saying this is because Christopher's going to be telling you about the excitements of science in a way that I cannot. But as you study the measurability of the life around us, if we're going to actually be able to act in time to delight in a planet that has everything that we could ever wish for, we have to, as well as understanding the science, understand the power of story. So never forget once upon a time. It is not that science and the arts are different things. I hate science. I loathe science. Have you any idea the hatred I could have for science? Do you know when it was invented, that science stuff? I can tell you exactly, 1834 is when it was first used. And do you know what happened then? Natural philosophy, which is basically what you're going to be studying here, which is about looking at it all, in the round, the big picture. No, the word science was the moment that Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. He had a big fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him together again. Your job is to put Humpty Dumpty together again, to tell stories with the science all together so we can actually understand that big picture. That's what I say about the Eden Project. That's what we're about. We're about trying to find the glue for Humpty Dumpty. Because you know the thing underneath that, my slight joke about science. Do you know what actually happened? What actually happened is by 1867, the word natural philosophy wasn't heard again, except in terms of what old-timers used to do. Because what was happening was these people called scientists, they'd broken it down to become ologists and ismists. So you had biology and chemistry and zoology and all of the ologies broken down into ever smaller bits, and they were consuming knowledge to make it theirs. I deal with scientists all the time, and there is nothing sadder than watching a scientist who's a real expert on the outside wing flap of a fruit fly. And then you ask them to put it in perspective of climate change, and they go, oh. You have to send them to samba dancing classes. It's the only way. But I want to finish by saying, I wish I was you. You have no idea of the privilege you have being in a place that is dedicated to this subject. Gosh, I wish I had been at such a place. So don't screw it up, guys. Don't screw it up. I mean, I know it's really difficult getting up in the morning and all that sort of stuff, and there are loads of other cool things to attract you, but to have this opportunity to start the careers of the future are all being made now in this area of agronomy. You see, I'll finish by saying, you know, I was talking about nuclear power. Have you noticed how when we're going to have an Extinction Rebellion riot, we're going to talk about flying? Flying. Everybody talks about flying in cars. Why? Because most people aren't smart enough to realise terrorists always take planes, don't they? The plane is a symbol of something, right? It's not that I'm advocating flying, but when you look at agriculture, 41% of all of the carbon emissions on the whole planet come from poor agriculture. The things we eat, the way we grow, the way we cultivate. This is about thinking. Coming here is about testing yourself, about how smart are you. And last of all, I made a joke about it before, but if we are worthy as we head into a very uncertain time of that phrase, Homo sapiens sapiens, so wise we called ourselves it twice, it is worth asking, what is the weaponry you need to arm yourself with? I think sharp wits, not taking anything for granted, being trustworthy, and actually asking yourself this one question. If someone said to you, your relationships with the people you loved were sustainable, how exciting is that? Sustainability is the shittest word ever invented. It really is. We should be talking about joy, beauty, life-affirming things. That way it's a lot more exciting. You are on the verge of making environmental interest rock and roll. Don't waste it with lousy language, bad food, and bad music. Thank you very much.
Wow, wasn't that great? Fantastic, thank you so much. Absolutely. Well, I've got a few pictures. I don't know if there it is, okay. So my name is Christopher Upton. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so you kind of know where it's all coming from. My background is agriculture and forestry. I would probably describe myself as an agronomist, not a farmer. But I've kind of knocked around a bit and I've been to see a lot of farms. But when I studied agriculture, it was a brave new world. It was a long time ago, and a lot of people were very, very hungry, and the Green Revolution happened. The Green Revolution. Does everybody know about the Green Revolution? A lot of people were very, very hungry, and we had to produce food. And with incredible ingenuity, we grew a lot of food. But to do so, we perpetuated a science that we now know was completely wrong. And I'm saying that deliberately, completely wrong. And that's a little bit what you guys are going to put right. And this is a lot of the fundamental thinking behind the Earth Centre. We're going to talk, this is a no-dig horticulture operation, somewhere this is northeast of the States, this is in Maine. This is a little bit what it's going to look like on the rugby pitch in 3 years' time, and you're all going to do it. I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit today about what that all means and why it's so important and how you're going to experiment to create something that's absolutely, completely new. Now, I need to change the picture. How do I do that?
Sorry.
Is there a way of doing that?
Yeah.
Ah.
Sorry about that.
No. It's good to have a team effort on this. So let's see.
Button on the side.
On the side?
Right-hand side, little wheel.
Ah, there we go. Carbon. I want to talk about carbon. Everybody's about carbon and global warming. Where is it? Where actually is the carbon that we're so worried about? Well, if you just look at this, you can see this little g and the big T, these are gigatons. That means it's a big ton. Don't worry about it too much. Just think of the actual number. So in the atmosphere, we think there's roughly 750, and it's going up. And that's the bit we're scared about. Because if that goes up too high, we're going to fry. It's going to get really hot and really uncomfortable, and lots of really nice, beautiful cities like Venice are going to disappear under meters of water. And we're really worried about that. Okay? But for it to rise, it has to have come from somewhere. So we blame these fossil reserves. We say it's all coming out of the ground. It's coming out of coal and oil and gas, which is true. And it's not a good thing. So these fossil reserves are going down, and in the atmosphere, it's going up. The other thing that we don't like is the ocean is soaking up a lot of the carbon. It's dissolving in the ocean, and that's becoming more acidic, and that's killing all the coral reefs. Nothing to do with plastic, by the way, guys. Completely different issue, but also very important. But the ocean, the surface of the ocean is getting more acidic, and this is killing lots of things that we like in the ocean. And that is also not a good thing. Now let's look at the other things, the bit that we can actually do something about. Look at this, the vegetation. These are the trees, this is everything. This is the Amazon rainforest, got 580. And the soil, look at it, 1,500 gigatons right now, more than twice the amount that's in the air. And it used to be 3,000, so what happened? At the time of the Romans, imagine Bideford, time of the Romans, it was twice as much carbon in the soil right here than there is now. So what happened? And one thing happened is we ploughed. We disturbed the soil. Is this? What do I have to do next? Oops. Right. Oh, there we go. Next, something happened. We disturbed the soil food web, and you guys are going to have to figure out how to put this back together again. So going back, think about 350 million years ago. 350, it's a long time ago, 350 million years ago, this soil food web existed. 350 million years ago, trees and plants had already cut a deal with these guys so that they could survive without us. Can you imagine? Forests were quite happy without us. We didn't have to help the wheat grow. It grew by itself. We got involved and we started ruining things, actually. But so for almost 300 million years, because it's only the last few thousand years that we've got involved, but for almost 300 million years, this system worked. So we had bacteria, fungi, nematodes, arthropods, and plants. And the plants were in charge, and they are in charge still today. The plants are the conductor. Photosynthesis, 40% of the energy from the photosynthesis is used to feed these people. When they get fed, they multiply and they die, and the nutrients in their bodies are just like you and me. A bacteria is the same as you. It's got exactly the same amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, everything else that a plant needs is in you, and a bacteria and a fungi. When they die, the plant can feed. It doesn't need nitrates and fertilizers and everything else. So the Earth Centre is about putting this back together again in an education context and a commercial environment. So what you're going to have to do to start with is measure everything. We want to measure the soil temperature, we want to measure how much carbon is in the soil, we want to count those earthworms. 40% of Britain's arable land has got no more earthworms. 0. What do birds eat? They eat insects. If there are no insects, what happens to the bird population? Britain's bird population has crashed by 90% in the last 10 years. Is this a coincidence? You guys are going to work it out. We're going to build this soil food web back again so it will feed us. It will grow very, very healthy vegetables and it will feed us. And what we are doing is also being part of the latest advances in agriculture. I'm asking you all to have to think outside the box. Forget about the red tractor, the plough, the seagulls fluttering behind, sun going down, lovely postcard that you get. Forget that. That unfortunately is not what we're going to do. Why are the seagulls behind the tractor? They don't go and turn up to find a red tractor for a bit of fun. They go because there's lots of chopped up insects lying on the ground that they can eat. So this is, there are people out there, agroecology, regenerative agriculture, biomimicry, and there's lots of people doing things that you're going to also work with and learn from. You're going to learn about biotic glues. When I studied agriculture, nobody knew these existed. Nobody knew about biotic glues, but they are critical to soaking up carbon out of the atmosphere. So bacteria cover themselves in glue because they're just like you and me and they don't want to be eaten by anybody, and they're in the soil, they're very vulnerable, they're tiny little creatures. 1 teaspoon of soil has more microorganisms than the entire population of the earth. So next time you walk across the playing fields, just watch out because they're all there. These little bacteria cover themselves in glue to protect themselves. They don't want to be eaten, this biotic glue, and that protects them. And the fungi, they do the same thing. They have a slightly different glue, which is called glomalin, which was only discovered in the 1990s. 1990s today's agriculture is based on science from the 1950s. We have to change the mindset of agriculture and move forward with these biotic glues. Fungal networks. We didn't even know. You might have a species of fungi named after you. There's plenty of scope. We think there are about 6 million species, of which we've identified 75,000. Penicillin comes from fungi. Our antibiotics come from fungi. We didn't even know what more than 5 million of these species can do, because we just concentrate on killing them. We chop them up to little pieces. We run the plough, chop them into little pieces. Birds come and eat them. So we need to now nurture. If we look after the soil will look after us. Right, skills. Nobody cares really about the fact that you've got an A in your English literature A level. Nobody actually cares that you got an A in biology or a C or a D. There's a really, Tony Wagner, Harvard Innovation Lab, spent 3 years interviewing CEOs in America, and he said to them, what is it you want? What are you looking for? Why are you going to employ people and pay them loads of money so that they can go to nightclubs and all the rest of it? What are you going to look for? Not a single CEO said, I am looking for a perfect candidate with straight A's in their A-levels. Nobody said that, ever. What they said was, I want people who can think. I want people who are creative. I want people who can work in teams. That's what they were all saying. World Economic Forum has identified these skills on the right are the most important skills that you need to have to be happy, to be yourself, to be successful in the future. Don't worry about grades, think about that. So the Earth Centre, a lot of the things you're going to be doing in the Earth Centre, you're going to be using these skills. You're going to be solving problems that we know exist, but we don't yet have all the solutions. And you are going to be involved in dealing with that. So we're going to do A-levels, because we still have to fit in the system. If I said, forget about A-levels, then your parents would be very unhappy, and the universities would say, what's this? I'm not sure. So we're still going to do the A-levels, but we're going to take all the bits of the A-levels, as much as we can, and get you to do projects, and to get you to work together in teams, and to explore things, and for you to choose different aspects of what you are really interested in. You might be really interested in soil bacteria, like me, fungi. I love fungi. I can spend the whole day looking at fungi under microscopes. They are fascinating. But you might not. You might think, you know what, what's really important to me is making compost. or you might not. Or you might think, what's really important to me is looking at medieval manuscripts and seeing how medieval historians have demonstrated use of agricultural machinery through the years. It's up to you. The possibilities are endless, but they really need to be linked to the concept of the Earth Centre. We have one Earth, we have one planet, there's no planet B. And that's what that's all about. There's lots of vocational qualifications that we will also be slotting in. So there's, as you can see here on the screen, these are about doing, about learning by doing, about getting out there, practicing things and learning practical skills that you can use. But those skills are all based around the Earth Centre and the soil food web and no dig. We don't dig because we want to look after those microorganisms. Right. Oh, that's not very good, is it? Well, anyway, never mind. Sort of thing about soil microbiology, sort of thing you might be able to do. Very simple things we're going to be doing, looking at soil textures, counting earthworms. Love earthworms, there just aren't enough of them. Yeah, lots of microscope. Have a look. We don't know. There's lots of stuff we just don't know about the soil. Now, you guys are going to be right at the cutting edge of what we don't. There's lots of stuff you guys are going to be figuring out we don't know about. Smell the earth. What does it smell like? What's texture, feel it, composition, all these things. Make notes, measure things. Measure, because then you can talk about change. And this is all stuff that you are going to be doing. Your teachers and the school are going to be showing you how that can link in across subjects. I don't actually like the word subject. I think we should be much more thinking about themes and being a bit more imaginative. Repeated observation, absolutely critical. Yeah, this is I have to put this. This is microscopes. So these are soils taken by A-level students. These are pictures taken by A-level students using microscopy in an A-level class in Oxford, and you can do exactly the same thing. So bottom, on the top left there, you've got a lovely bit of hyphae from a fungi with those nice cell walls, very clear. You can see the septae. Top right, you've got protozoa up in cysts protecting themselves from me disturbing on our microscope plate. Another protozoa with a lovely nucleus. And here we've got a nematode feeding on bacteria with a lump of humic acid. It is so exciting down there. There is so much going on in the soil, as long as it's a healthy soil. If you did this with an arable soil that had been ploughed and poisoned with fertilizers and chemicals, you would not see this slide. That is what we have done, and we have to put it back. So how's this going to work? Oh, there's lots of research, how it works with higher education. We've got the A-levels, we've got the BTECs, blah, 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 blah. We want to tie you in with universities. We've already been working with Birmingham University and the University of Portsmouth. We created a geoscience diploma for people who really like rocks. I love rocks, they're great. Fungi and rocks is a really good combination. They love each other. Fungi will get all the base salts and minerals out of the rocks that the soil needs. You don't need artificial fertilizers. Fungi will do it for you. You have the right type of fungi, they'll do it for you. So you can do the geoscience diploma in the Earth Centre and go straight to Birmingham University. Forget about A-levels. You can do it if you want to. And we're going to be expanding this to include lots of other subjects and lots of other links. We want to get universities used to the idea that what they will get is somebody who's enthusiastic and who can think and who loves their subject. And that's what we're going for. Data. There'll be lots and lots of data coming out of this. And already we've got universities interested in teaming up with their research departments to see what they can do with this data. We're going to be measuring so many things, and there'll be so much information coming out of this thing because we've got an amazing team. I mean, look at you, hundreds of people collecting data, which we're going to feed through into the higher education system. And it's these two things, actually, more than anything, that will make the Earth Centre as the place to go for environmental study in the south, with probably the whole of the UK, I would imagine, actually. It's these two areas that we will go. Final thought. Yeah, the soil carbon pool is 50% of what it was before the Romans. Let's put it back. Just put the carbon back. If we started to put the carbon back, this is the French government had an initiative at the Paris climate change talks, and this is their initiative, which they call 4 per thousand, 4 per 1000, because it translates well into everything. And then you've got So basically 0.25%. So if we increase the soil carbon by 0.25% per year across the world's farmlands, we would store 75% of global emissions. You know, we have the technology. We know how to do this. This is not complicated. We know how to do this. We just have to do it. And the main target of the Earth Centre is not what percentage of A grades you get. The main target of the Earth Centre here in Bideford is to fix 500 kilos of carbon per year, per hectare in the soil. And it's your job to prove that can happen. If you can do that, you will have met that target of 0.4%. So 500 kilograms, that's all it takes. And if everybody does that, 75% of global emissions are taken out of the atmosphere. That doesn't mean we can all go around drilling oil out of the earth, but it does give us a bit of time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to both Christopher and to Tim. For those of you looking at your watches thinking, I hope I get to go home, you will. We'll be aiming for 4:45 finish, so that those of you heading on buses will have plenty of time to do that. But I hope as well many of you will stick around, because I hope you may want to come and talk. You might want to come and talk to Tim. You might want to come and talk to Christopher. And I hope you'll re-engage with the people upstairs with their booths as well. Let me just try and help us understand why here, why now, why Kingsley. This isn't just us. The library upstairs is full of people who are passionate about the things that you've been hearing about this afternoon. They really believe in those things. They want the environment to be better than it is. I know that many of you, the pupils at Kingsley, are as passionate about these topics as these gentlemen are. I know that because a number of you attended a climate strike a few weeks ago. That caused a bit of a Facebook storm. Many of your parents were very angry with me as headmaster. How dare the headmaster allow students to strike from school and go and attend a climate change march? How dare he? Other parents posted comments and sent me messages saying, "We're delighted, headmaster, that you have allowed some of your students to take part in these climate change strikes." Hey, I've only been a headmaster for 3 years, but I get it. I can never make everybody happy. That's just life. This last week, and I'm not going to embarrass them by naming them, but 2 pupils from the school came back to me just on their own, just very quietly, to say, "Sir, there is a climate change walk coming up this Friday coming in Barnstable. Please may we go?" And my response to them, as it will be to anybody else who comes to ask me, is, if your parents give you permission, then you may attend. Because I believe that that is an important part of what you are doing as your education. Now, even parents who would never give permission for their children to go on those marches, some of those parents will probably still be angry with me, because they will say, "Well, that's not what you should be doing, headmaster. You should not be allowing students to go and attend those climate marches." Well, that's the decision I've made. I will be allowing them to attend, if they have their parents' permission, because it's important for you to teach us. Many of you know a hell of a lot more about this whole topic even than I do. I have a geography degree. This, to me, is very, very natural. This is exciting stuff. I'm perhaps not quite as excited about soil biochemistry as Christopher, but I do remember doing a soil chemistry module as part of my geography degree when I was at Cambridge. I've still got a book somewhere called Soil Chemistry. I ought to show you it. You've probably read it. But this is important. This is about you thinking about what planet you are going to pass on to your children. Many young people, quite rightly I think, are very angry with people of our generation because of the state we've left things in. So here is an opportunity, right here, right now in your school, to do something about it. What would you like to do? My vision for Kingsley is very simple. I want us to be a global leader in this whole sphere of environmental education. A global leader. Not just North Devon, not just the southwest of England, a global leader. Working in partnership with other local groups, many of whom are upstairs. It's like a stick of rock. There's a lot of rock in this part of the world, isn't there? Especially in the summer. Westward Ho. What would Westward Ho be without sticks of rock? But when you get a stick of rock and you look at the end of it, there's a word in there, isn't there? And it might say Westward Ho. It might say Bideford. But when you break that stick of rock, that word runs all the way through the stick of rock. It's just there. It's part of the rock. It goes all the way through. That's what this project is about. It's not about us as a school saying, oh, aren't we clever? Look at us. We've come up with a whizzo idea and we're going to call it the Earth Centre. And everyone's going to go, oh, well done, Kingsley. Aren't you great? That's not what this is about. This is about us saying these principles, these things are important to us. And they're so important, it's like a stick of rock. It's just how we do stuff. It's there in everything that we do. One of the things I love doing, I haven't done it so much in the darker winter months, I love, when I'm doing my school walks, bumping into the preschool and the nursery. Have you ever done that? Some of you have seen them out and about? The tiniest ones that we have in our school. All dressed up in their wellies and their little onesies, their little waterproof onesies. They look so sweet. And they're out. They're out on the playing field. They're out in the woods. And what are they doing? They're looking for bugs. They're looking for worms. They're looking for hedgehogs. They're looking at different plants. That's wonderful to see. And many of you who've come up through our prep school, think about all those wonderful experiences you've had down in the woods on the other side of the road with Mr. Wilson, learning about our natural environment, learning about being outdoors, learning about engaging with your environment. I was with Mr. Wilson in one of the lessons last, I think it was in the summer term, with a Year 3 group. Absolutely brilliant lesson. Collecting little twigs and leaves and branches off the floor that would burn well. And watching Year 3 learn how to light a fire. You know, with a metal Brillo pad and a battery. How awesome is that? It's very Bear Grylls, isn't it? And then you come to Year 7. And I kind of feel we've lost the impetus a little bit. Which is a real shame. Because I think the passion is still there and I think the enthusiasm is still there. And that's what this is about. It's about driving some of those ideas through the school. Christopher's spoken briefly there about how we might hook that in to some of our academic studies. And yeah, I get it. You guys want GCSEs, you want A-levels, you want BTECs, you need them at the moment to go on to university. Your parents have that expectation of us as a school. We will continue to do that. But what we're doing is we're saying, let's have these themes running through your learning so that we are engaging you with that. So it will run right through the school, just like a stick of rock. It will also run across all departments. I was asked the other day, some of you might have heard, I had the privilege of speaking on The Voice FM radio station. And I was asked about how this concept might link in with a subject. And the chap who was interviewing me mentioned geography. Too easy. Too easy. It's my subject. It's so easy to do that. What if you're studying English literature A-level? How does that link to what we're talking about today? How does that work? Well, I know it does. because I've been chatting with Miss Makepeace, who's our head of English, and she's got a wonderful idea that's come from her and Miss Percy. They've been talking about what Simon Armitage is up to at the moment. Who is Simon Armitage? Does anybody know who that person is? Come on, English students. Nat? He's a poet. I think he's a slightly famous poet. What's his title at the moment? Miss Makepeace, help us out. He's the Poet Laureate. He is, if you like, the best poet. He's king of the crop at the moment. Go and have a look at what Miss Makepeace has stuck outside her classroom door. Go and read his poem. And look next to it where there is a prize, with a first prize of potential, I think it was about £3,000, wasn't it, Miss Makepeace? £5,000, even better, for a piece of work on the subject of trees. Wow. So, go on then. Do it. Enter that competition. Think about how your work engages with this stick of rock and the ideas running through it. It doesn't matter what subject you're studying. You can be engaged and passionate. In a minute, we're going to be looking at some wonderful images of what the Earth Centre building might actually look like. That's going to be really exciting. I'm really excited to be sharing that with you this afternoon. I have a dream as well that outside that space, I'd love to see art. I'd love to see sculpture. I'd love to see pieces of work that you have created that tie in with these themes. It doesn't matter what you're studying. Let me talk about the practical aspects. We're launching today this concept of the Earth Centre. There are really two parts to it. The first is what Christopher's just been sharing with you. We're going to call it the Ecology Zone. It's the no-dig farming concept that Christopher's just been explaining. A small number of students were up there earlier today at lunchtime. We've got pictures of Tobias, the first man laying into the ground with a spade. No dig with a spade. What's going on? Well, all that's going on is that first initial movement of soil out of the land, turn it upside down on top of a piece of cardboard rich in cellulose that will then break down and will form part of the nutrient-rich environment within which the crops will be grown. We've started. There is a small test plot. It's marked out with yellow tape, and it's on the little bank above the AstroTurf. Go and have a look. Go and have a look. That's the initial stage. That then will grow. It will grow onto the lower Belvoir field, where we hope to develop this concept of no-dig farming. We're going to learn a lot along the way. We might find that some of the things we started doing, and we think this is a good idea, let's do this, we may find they don't work. So we'll change it. We will learn together as we are embarking on that process. But I want you all to be part of that journey. The second is the Earth Centre itself. Mr. Whaley, our head of geography, is also going to be the head of the Earth Centre. Mr. Whaley did a brilliant assembly on Monday. I think we all agree, did a fantastic job. Really, really good assembly. Getting us all just to think about what we are doing and what we might do. Some of you are aware of this already, others of you may not be. Over the last few weeks, Mr. Whaley has been on a journey. He's been engaging with some educational resources that have been made available by the United Nations. And he has become a United Nations accredited climate change teacher. That's really, really exciting. He's taken himself off, he's done many, many hours of private study to work through a series of modules that allow him, with the scientific understanding, with the confidence that comes from having learnt that material, to actually deliver lessons about climate change and about climate action and about how we might change the way in which we live. I'm hugely excited about that. And I've got his certificate here, and in a second he's going to come and collect it. But even more exciting, this only happened this morning, a second teacher, who I didn't even know was doing this, has taken himself off and has done exactly the same course that Mr. Whaley has done, and has today received his certificate. It came through this morning. I've framed it super quick, ready to pass that on. And that's Mr. D'Agostino. Mr. D'Agostino teaches maths. Crazy. What's he doing? Well, let's find out. Mr. Whaley and Mr. D'Agostino, could you both come up, please? Congratulations. Don't disappear. Neither of you is mic'd up, but I know you've both got big voices. Just very quickly, Steve, tell us why this is important for you.
Well, to be honest, I think it goes back to something that Sir Tim said. Take on something that you're maybe not familiar with, or maybe something that you think you know everything about already. I know I don't look as though I've been teaching that long, but I am in my 19th year as a teacher.
Not possible.
Not possible. And I've been an environmentalist for longer than that, and I wouldn't say I thought I knew everything, but you know the curve. Miss Hamilton did an assembly in the Maths Masterclass recently about how much you think you know. And when you start to learn, you realise how much you actually know, and then you have to slowly build your way up. And I know that I'm only on the curve on the way up. There's still lots to learn, but it was a great, through the Harwood education, it was a brilliant opportunity. And obviously it's been great because it got me the Earth Centre manager job, I'd say.
Mario, as a maths teacher, why have you done this? Why have you gone down this route?
There's the interest of Mr. Whaley was one of them, but it's the not knowing something. How to know it, learn it. Ask the people. Mr. Whaley was very helpful how to get on the course. And it was something I look back on now and think, yeah, I'm actually really glad I did it.
Brilliant. Well, both, thank you very, very much indeed. Well done, both of you. I know there's one more teacher who's also embarked on this journey already. I'm not going to embarrass her or name her because I don't think she's managed to get quite as far as they have just yet. But that's fine. Wow, wouldn't it be awesome to have a range of teachers from our school across all departments, across all subjects? And actually, why just teachers? Why just teachers? Why not some of our support staff as well? Why not encourage us all to do this? I know he hates to be mentioned by name, so I'm not going to name him because he gets very embarrassed by it, but one of our sixth form pupils has already done and completed one of those modules. And I know there are other students in the school who've also embarked on that route, having chatted to Mr. Whaley. Brilliant, awesome, do them all. I would love to get you up here and give you your certificate to say, as an ambassador for climate change, that would be awesome.
Would your children agree to be a VT at COP25 next week in Madrid? Would they agree to speak to the entire world about being the very first Educate Global UN Youth Ambassadors for Climate Change Learning?
I'm sure we would love to do that, and we can certainly sort that out with you.
In the world.
We're happy to be the first in the world, aren't we? Yeah. Excellent. I'm going to ask James Barnett to come and join me on stage. James, please come up. James is a local architect and his business is called JB Architects. James has a reputation, richly deserved, for designing buildings that are environmentally sensitive. And James has been doing some work for us on our new Earth Centre. So I'm hoping in a moment the lights will dim, some images will appear on the screen, as if by magic. And James, first question I would like to ask you is, when you were doing the designs for this project, what were your key inspirations?
Just stepping back from that, I think, following Sir Tim, that I could possibly bore you. You are probably going to hear what you're expecting to hear, and I might use the word sustainability. Really sorry. So I don't know where to go, really, from here. But to answer your question, I think, broadly speaking, I'm just inspired by buildings of any age which are living, could be considered as living buildings. Quite often we see a building as an inanimate object, and actually, I think taking a cue from nature how nature, plants and animals adapt to their environment. They can deal with cold, heat, if they're successful, and how a building can do the same, and that's the most inspiring thing for me. So, I think a building has to be adaptable, and in our case, it needs to get its energy from the sun, and it needs to capture rain and use that to water plants and flush the loos, deal with the hot days, deal with the cold days.
Excellent. How did the plans evolve from that initial inspiration to your actual designs, which are beginning to appear on the screen behind us?
Well, obviously, the idea of this new teaching and learning idea is tremendously exciting, and so I've felt that the building was it could be seen as a beacon of hope, sort of shining light into the darkness of climatic and ecological challenges that we're facing. So I've represented that with essentially a beacon building. On the other side, I'm very excited by Victorian Greenhouses, and they are basically a lean-to glass roof, glass wall against an old garden wall in a garden courtyard. And whenever I visit one, I recommend you do. It's always a bit like going to the lost world. You go in there and you can't really see what's going on the outside. You go in there and it's incredibly sensory. The smells of the plants, the flowers, the earth. And these are lovely, amazing spaces, and how that sort of feeling could be brought into a building. And of course, Sir Tim's already completely preempted that by building the Eden project. So, so I've got these two ideas which are coming together in the building. One is the beacon, and the other one is the greenhouse, glass houses. And the beacon is a circular building, and it houses the lecture theatre with a small lecture theatre, 100 seats, and above it, circular independent study area, which has sort of glass and more of the views and more of the openness, whereas the lecture theatre is much more of the earth. And the glass house is a pretty straightforward rectangular building, and that houses the practical learning areas. Some of it literally is a greenhouse, so it's unheated, plants running through it, and I want that, to feel that sense of adventure when you come in, see these plants and be assaulted by, you'll have your senses assaulted by that. Part of the greenhouse, which you can't necessarily see so much in this image, to the north there's a shoulder which houses the administration, the sort of back of house stuff, prep areas, and that is a gently curved form that protects the glass house from the cold north wind, and sort of hugs it from the top there. And that's the sort of thing that I'm hoping will be built of straw wall construction.
That's fantastic. Well, that brings me on to the next bit, which is obviously, given what we're talking about today, how does your design involve and contain eco or environmentally friendly aspects?
Well, sort of seeing it from the top, working our way down, so starting at the roof, you can see it's pretty green already. It's as if we've lifted up the ground and allowed, and then built and brought the buildings underneath that. So we have, I'm hoping that the shoulder to the north could have a biodiversity roof of sort of plants that are happy in growing in a bit of shade, quite a good deep soil going there, and we'll create a really cool area which I could use then in the hot summer to bring it into the laboratory areas and teaching areas. Obviously green roofs, and then on the other roofs, sedum roofs, which is a bit thinner and a bit lighter, so we don't need so much incredible structure to support those. All these green roofs are capturing CO2. If there's a big storm of rain, they will slow that water down so it's not causing a flood somewhere else downstream. We can capture as much water as we can for the irrigation, flush the loos with it. And then the pitch roof part there is directly facing south, and the perfect angle for, basically it's our energy source. So it's photovoltaic panels are for creating energy from the sun, and that is essentially mostly where the daylight and sunlight is coming into the building. And then, so working down from the roof, some of the walls are, for example, on the beacon, there are interesting curved spiral bits of timber which stops sort of early morning hot summer sun from getting too much sunlight into the independent study area. There's lots of little ploys like that. The roof overshadows so you don't let hot summer sun in. And it's a sort of, It's quite a traditional approach, but it's what we call passive solar design. Basically, what we want is try and use what we have, is to get the sun, if it's sunny in one of the winter's days, bring that sun into the building. The sun's quite low, there are less or no leaves on the trees in front. And if we can bring that sun in certain places, we could heat up an area and use that heat area as a buffer of air, a sort of natural air conditioner. And then with a control system, take some of that air to heat parts of the building, thereby being much less reliant on our own heating and fossil fuels, etc. So the passive solar design is very traditional. And on a hot summer's day, we want to then not overheat the building. So we let the heat rise and might then create a bit of an airflow, which then will draw cool air from the north side, which we're making a big cool area for collecting cool air there for ventilation. And then, so with that traditional idea, which has been in buildings for centuries, we then add technology and have a building management system where basically software is understanding the outside temperature, the inside temperature, air quality, the amount of light there is, and adapting, changing, opening vents here and there. So the building is becoming living. You're like, why is that opened? What's, light rising gently as the sun is setting, and things are opening here and there. With the main object of not having to use too much heating or too much energy in the process. So with that's a sort of general design thing. The actual building itself is going to be made out of, well, in terms of glass house, cross-laminated timber, which is using small bits of timber, really gluing them together to make a much bigger structural beam. So we don't have to cut down a tree and turn it to a beam. We can use small pieces. And that's all from wood, from sustainable sources, where they're planting new trees all the time. And this is the cut through of the glasshouse area. That can be extended, adapted. It's crucial the building can be changed, modified to suit and to be flexible in the future. The last thing we want to do is knock something down to do something else. And then the materials themselves need to be really low carbon. They need to be as local as we could get. For example, so I mentioned straw already. That'd be very exciting to use a sort of miscanthus grass straw and lime render it. It'd be exciting to get to use cob or rammed earth on the beacon building. Obviously, lots of timber cladding, timber in the structure, timber inside. It's a lovely material, and it's just that's and everything that can be recyclable is very necessary as well. And then working our way down the building to the ground, we're on the site of the old Kiltrasna boarding house. And it may even be possible to, the way the old building house that still has its foundations in the ground, is to try and support our building from some of those foundations, because cement in concrete is very high energy and we want to reduce the amount of concrete available.
That's fantastic. Just a final question in terms of the link back to learning. How do you think that the building that you've designed here will have an impact on our pupils' learning?
Well, I'm hoping that it's just going to be quite good fun. I'm hoping that the fact that it's so open to the inside and the outside, and we're going to be opening the glass house bit and various other bits on a warmer day, there'll be areas where you can get your hands dirty, but at the same time there are independent spaces which are very sort of relaxed, and you can go back to your research. I think it's going to be just going to promote general feeling of well-being. And that also that's going to be quite flexible, the space we designed, so that you guys will be able to modify what sort of things have been set up there, keep it fresh and exciting. And then at the same time, as I sort of mentioned earlier, perhaps why is that vent opening? It'll be interesting that the building is changing around you and how the light changes around it. I think it'll be beautiful. And I think that'll feed into the results and the excitement of learning in this place.
James, thank you so much. Thank you for explaining it, and thank you for your wonderful designs. I think, please do. James actually has some of the more detailed drawings upstairs in the library, and I think we have a little fly-through video we can just have a quick look at.
Yeah, we can relax to that, watch a bit of a film.
Let's do that now.
Okay, great.
excited as I am about that as a building project. Obviously, as with all building projects, that's where we're starting. Those are the initial ideas. No doubt those will evolve over the coming years, but the plan is to have that building built and finished within the next 3 years. So that is a very, very exciting part of the journey that we are embarking on. We're done. I don't want you to rush away. I'd love for you to go and re-engage with the people who are upstairs in the library. Please stay and chat. Come and speak with Sir Tim, come and speak with Christopher, come and ask me questions, go and find James upstairs. Can I mention badges? Many of us were given badges when we came in. They're plastic. They won't be single use. So if you've got a plastic badge, hand it in upstairs. I promise you we will use them again. They will not be thrown in the bin. Lucy's waving at me. Sorry, Lucy. Thank you. Thank you. Before we show that final film, could I please just express my thanks? They will probably not hear me so clearly, but some of them might be listening upstairs. Thank you very much to everybody who came into the library today to set up their stalls. I hope that you enjoyed the opportunity to engage with them and to talk with them as part of this afternoon, and please do catch them on the way out. Can we please give a massive thank you to Christopher and to Sir Tim Schmitt for being our guest speakers this afternoon. I'd also like to thank our director from our new owners, Daniel, who's sat up the top there. He won't possibly thank me for doing this, but it is largely through Daniel's friendship and connections with Christopher that many of these ideas germinated. So Daniel, thank you very much, and thank you for all that you're bringing to the school. And just a quick thanks to the home team, because obviously our caretaker John Murter has worked his socks off to get everything ready. And thank you to Steve Whaley for all that he has done. Steve was up at the crack of dawn this morning being interviewed by BBC Radio Devon. You can find that on the BBC Sounds app. He did a brilliant job explaining what we were doing today. And the biggest thank you has to go to the person who's put all of this together. That's Lucy Goman. Let's watch this final film.
As educationalists, to help the next generation understand the importance of careful stewardship of the resources that we have at our disposal. We are launching something called the Earth Centre. This is a hugely exciting project. The purpose of this project is to make Kingsley the go-to school globally for students who wish to hook their sixth form studies into the central concepts of environmental sustainability and climate action. Centre, and the intention is that our sciences and other closely related subjects like geography, environmental science, hospitality and the BTECs that we're offering will all be based in that new signature building, where all the work that happens in that building will be linked in to these central concepts of environmental sustainability and climate action.